What a baseball season we had. It's Monday, September 30th, and the regular season is over. And we know, of course, that means it's just a precursor to what lies ahead this coming week. Good morning, everybody. This is Arnie, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. So tomorrow we have a wild card game, and then on Wednesday we have another wild card game. So it's Oakland going up against Tampa Bay. They'll be playing on the West Coast. In the National League, it's going to be Milwaukee traveling to our nation's capital to take on the Washington Nationals.
And good morning to Lenny and, while we're talking about the Washington Nationals, Lenny and Andrea in Arizona up at, I don't know what time you guys had to get up this morning. But I tell you what, Lenny, you once again outdid yourself, my friend. What a great show. It's such a pleasure to work with both of you and everyone else on this network. And for all of you guys in the chat room this morning, good morning. Stick around. We're going to talk nothing but baseball for the next 30 minutes or so. So why don't we get going with it, say, right now.
So let's take a look back at the season. Let's take a look at the league leaders because, we forecast a fantasy draft in February or March, and let's see how these players who were league leaders, where do they fall in your draft and where might they fall in the 2020 draft. So for batting, let's take a look at home runs. First of all, the National League and Major League leader in home runs this past season, rookie Pete Alonso, who finished with 53 homers, breaking Aaron Judge's rookie record and setting his own. 53 homers, leading all of Major Leagues, of course the National League. And in the American League, Jorge Soler. It was an incredible year for Soler, 48 homers. So where did they get drafted this year? Well, at the beginning of the season, there was talk that Alonso may not even have the starting job in New York as the first baseman.
And Lenny mentioned it earlier that, yesterday you had Dominique Smith coming off of the bench. What drama. I mean, really, you don't get much better drama than that. Dominique Smith coming off the bench, hits a walk-off 3-run homer on the final game of the year. And so that was his competition at first base this year, Dominique Smith. And Dominique Smith's going to play. That bat can hit. And I look for Dominique Smith to be an outfielder for the Mets in 2020.
And, of course, Soler had always a great upside potential, but never did he realize that potential until this year. So did Alonso get drafted late? Probably. Soler may not have been drafted at all. I picked up Soler off of waivers. I think it was in May. Now, Phil Chaplin and I talked about drafting Soler. We talked about in February he having a breakout year, and great predicting that was. And you just felt also Alonso was going to have a good year if he got the playing time. Seeing him lead the National League in home runs was probably not something on the radar. But I could see Alonso going in the top 2 or 3 rounds next year. Maybe Soler a round after that, maybe round 3, 4, or 5. But certainly their fantasy value skyrocketed, no doubt, with the season they had in 2019. Batting average leaders in the American League, this is a shocker. I would never have picked this guy to win a batting crown. Tim Anderson for the White Sox. I really thought he was going down beginning of September, but in September he hits 381. He's the first White Sox player to win a batting title since who and when. And he's the second White Sox player to lead the majors in hitting, joining Luke Appling in 1936 as the only White Sox to lead all of baseball in hitting. Now, Anderson only had 15 walks, and they are the fewest by any player to winning a batting title. And who has the second least amount of walks to win a batting title? Okay, those are two trivia questions we'll come back to in just a few moments. First of all, he's the first White Sox player to win a batting title since who and in what year? That one's a little easier. But the second one's a little more difficult. So he only had 15 walks, the fewest by any player to win a batting title. Who is second on that list with the second fewest walks to win a batting title? Come back to that one in just a few minutes. In the National League, the batting champion, Christian Yelich, 329. He's the first player in Brewers history to win a batting title. Now he's had it for 2 years in a row, and he had enough plate appearances to qualify, even though he broke his right kneecap and missed the final few weeks of the season. Ketel Marte, he also hit 329, but his mark was lower than Yelich's when you round to a third decimal. It was that close. Yelich, .3292, Marte, .3286. So he wins by 6/10,000ths of a point. Wow. Yelich is the first National League player to win back-to-back batting titles since Larry Walker in 1998 and 1999. So going back to my Tim Anderson question, his 15 walks are the fewest by any player to win a batting title. He edges out Zach Wheat. Yes, Zach Wheat, who won the batting championship 101 years ago in 1918. And in that year, in 1918, Zach Wheat only walked 16 times. So Anderson's 15 walks are the fewest by any player to ever win a batting title. And now he knocks out Zach Wheat on that list. RBI champions, well, there's Anthony Rendon from the wild card winning Washington Nationals, who led all of Major League Baseball with 126 RBIs. Much publicized. First year in the Nationals without Bryce Harper, but Rendon paved the way. He's the first Nats player to lead the National League in RBIs since the two moved to Washington, and the first overall for the franchise since Expos catcher Gary Carter shared the National League lead in 1984 with Michael Jack Schmidt. Rendon is the first ever player to lead the majors in RBIs. Now, in the American League, Jose Abreu had 123. He's just the second White Sox player to lead the American League in RBIs, joining Dick Allen, who did it in 1972. It's Abreu's fifth 100 RBI season in his first 6 Major League seasons. He's one of just 13 players with at least 5 100 RBI seasons in his first 6 seasons. And he does that as one of the White Sox players to do it, joining Frank Thomas. So I'm talking about White Sox superlatives here. Anderson wins the batting title. Abreu wins the RBI title. Watch out for the White Sox next year and draft their players in fantasy. Not only do you have Abreu, not only do you have Anderson, there's Eloy Jimenez, who is one of Lenny's faves. I'm telling you, he's one of mine too. I think a sophomore breakout season is on track for Eloy Jimenez. You've got Nick Madrigal, who will probably be up to play second base next year. You've got Luis Robert, who just annihilated AAA, all minor league pitching, really. And when you put these players with the core that's already there, I'm telling you, I'm really looking for some great things out of the White Sox next year. And here they are with 2 players getting superlative awards this season. So, love it in Chicago. Things are on the up. Stolen base leaders, Malik Smith led all of Major League Baseball this year with 46. He's racked up now consecutive 40 steal seasons. This year, 46 is a career high. He's the third Mariners player to lead the American League in stolen bases. The previous 2, Ichiro in his rookie season, 2001. And excuse me for my bad voice this morning. I sang a lot yesterday at church, and I have, again, probably overdone it. But please pardon me and bear with me this morning. Harold Reynolds is the other Mariner who led the American League in stolen bases. He led the league in 1987. In the National League, Ronald Acuna Jr. Well, he just fell short of a 40-40. Look for that next year. But he did get 37 stolen bases. Now, he was injured Tuesday. That injured his season prematurely. The Braves gave him time off to rest for the playoffs. So he didn't play Wednesday through the weekend. He still had 37 stolen bases. And he's the first Braves player to lead the National League in stolen bases since who? And he did it for the Milwaukee Braves. Who was the last Braves player before Ronald Acuna to lead the National League in stolen bases? On base percentage, these names will not surprise you. Neither will the slugging leaders because they're the same people. Leading the American League and National League in both on base percentage and in slugging percentage, Christian Yelich and Mike Trout. On base percentage, Trout leads all of Major League Baseball at .438. He's led the American League in on-base percentage now for 4 straight seasons, and he's the first player to lead his league in OBP since Joey Votto did it from 2010 to 2013, and the first American leaguer to do it since Wade Boggs did it in 5 straight years for the Red Sox from 1985 through 1989. Christian Yelich not far behind with a .429 on-base percentage. His first time leading the league in that category. Broke Votto's streak of 3 straight. As with his batting title last year, Yelich is the first Brewers player to lead the league in on-base percentage. So we'll just keep it with slugging. Yelich, .671, led all of the majors in slugging. This is Yelich's second straight year leading the National League in slugging and his first leading the majors. The only other Brewers player to lead the majors in slugging was Robin Yount in 1982 when he led the American League, and that's before the Brewers came over to the National League. Confusing, huh? Yelich's .671 slugging is the highest in a single season in franchise history. It's also the highest by any player since Albert Pujols slugged .671 in 2006 for the St. Louis Cardinals. Trout, well, he leads the American League in slugging, .645. It was the highest of his career. It's the 3rd time he's led the American League in slugging. He did it. It's odd-numbered years for him, 2015, 2017, and now 2019. The only other Angels player to lead the American League in slugging before Mike Trout was Bobby Grich. Yeah! The slugging second baseman in 1981. Trout's 45 slugging percentage this year was the highest by an American League player since A-Rod slugged .645 in 2007. And in that year, A-Rod, of course, well, he was the American League most valuable player. So let's go back.
And real quick, let's look at the chat room. Corona Cyclonus and Doug Boyle and Lenny and Andrea. And it's just great to see all you guys in the chat room this morning talking nothing but baseball on this Monday. I think that's what I'm going to do every Monday. Irregardless, it's going to be Baseball Monday every Monday going forward. We're going to talk prospects next week. Already look at some free agents. Of course, we got a lot of playoff games to go over. So, and as always, we'll talk chat room. Andrea is already lauding the praises of Mike Trout again. Yeah, he's number 1. I don't see how you can take him away from the number 1 draft slot. Not only does he put up the numbers, Andrea, but it's every year. Even barring injury, he's still putting up those numbers.
Acuna, he's the first Braves player to lead the National League in stolen bases since Bill Bruton did it. You remember Bill Bruton in 1955 as a member of the Milwaukee Braves. Bill Bruton. There you go. Let's look at StatCast barrels. Which players had the most StatCast barrels? In the American League, Jorge Soler with 70. Now, this is a fairly new stat, but no Royals player had ever had more than 48 in a season prior to Jorge Soler. Major League leading 70 StatCast barrels this year. In the National League, Pete Alonso and Ronald Acuna Jr. both with 66. Now, 48 of Alonso's 53 homers were barreled. Just 5 shy of the most barreled homers in a year, 53 by Giancarlo Stanton in 2017. Let's turn to some pitching categories. The ever-elusive wins, the category you can't chase, but it's great when you do catch it. The American League winner Justin Verlander with 21. He became a 20-game winner for the first time since 2011. And in 2011, he won both the American League Cy Young and Most Valuable Player as a member of the Detroit Tigers. How about that? So not only did he get 21 wins, he also reached a couple of pair of milestones this year, 3,000 career strikeouts and 300 strikeouts for the season. Oh, to be married to Kate Upton. I wonder if that had anything to do with him pitching as well. I don't know. National League, just an aside there, right? Steven Strasburg leads the National League with 18 wins. Strasburg had career years in wins, innings pitched 209, and strikeouts 251. ERA winners. Hyunjin Ryu, he came back. Yes, he did. It was Ryu with the ERA title. He had an all-star season, 10 starts in which he went at least 7 innings without allowing an earned run. Let's get it out. 10 starts in which he went at least 7 innings without allowing an earned run. Garrett Cole led the American League in ERA with a 2.50 ERA. Verlander, the Cy Young Award winner, was at 2.58. Now, Garrett Cole, he may not have won the wins, he may have won the ERA, but he also won strikeouts, 326. He and Verlander reached the 300 strikeout mark, becoming just the second pair of teammates to do so. The last time was Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling for the 2002 D-backs. And you know what they did that year? Well, they went on to beat the Yankees and win the World Series. Cole finished 26 strikeouts ahead of Verlander's even 300. He had 21 games with double-digit strikeouts, and he closed out the regular season with 9 consecutive 10 strikeout performances. The National League strikeout leader, Jacob deGrom, 255. He led the league in strikeouts for the first time, and he reached the 250 strikeout mark for a second consecutive season. He also had a 2.43 ERA, which was the second lowest ERA next to Ryu's in the National League. Saves. Kirby Yates led the National League and Major Leagues this year with 41 saves. Entering this season, he only had 14 saves in 21 opportunities. However, this year he went 41 out of 44 and led the majors. The first Padre to do it since Heath Bell, there you go, in 2009. And the first Padre to lead the entire major league in saves since Hall of Famer Trevor Hoffman did it in 1998. Roberto Osuna led the American League with 38. He was 38 for 44. He's the first Astros pitcher to lead the league in saves since Jose Valverde did it in 2008. And back then, the Astros were in the National League. So those are some league leaders for this year. What do you make of these pitchers in fantasy next year? Verlander, Strasburg, Ryu, Cole. Well, I think Cole is a potential first-round pick next year, if not certainly a second-rounder. And I think deGrom and Verlander are probably second-rounders as well. Now, I'm not really high on Ryu. I don't think he goes into either of the top rounds next year. Strasburg, probably a third-rounder, maybe fourth. But those are just my thoughts, and I don't draft closers. So congrats to Yates and Osuna for leading their leagues in saves, but I'm not a big drafter of closers. But deGrom, Garrett Cole, Ryu, Strasburg, Verlander, I think are all probably top 5 rounders, Ryu being at the end of the list, and I'm going to put Cole, one of the first pitchers, if not first pitchers, drafted in the 2020 fantasy drafts. I think it's fun just to look back at the stats, because fantasy's numbers and numbers are stats. And so how many of us had any of those players on our team? Did you have Soler? Well, I did. Did you have Cole? Did you have Verlander? Did you have Ryu? Did you have Ryu and then trade him away and then try to get him back and wish you hadn't, and then at the end, wish you had? I mean, you're talking about politics. Ryu, he's the stereotypical up and downer, right? He's gone one day and back another, but a great year. And so now we're going to take a look. Let's look at the playoff brackets. You've got the A's going up against Tampa Bay, and you've got Washington going up against Milwaukee. So Tuesday, the Nationals, they will host the Brewers, and the American League game will be on Wednesday. In the American League wildcard game on Wednesday, it's going to be Charlie Morton announced for the Rays, and I'm not sure yet who's pitching for Oakland. I don't know that they've announced their pitching for the playoffs. So I'm going to take a look and see if I can find that as we're talking this morning. But I will want to talk about the Washington Nationals because that game comes up first. So you've got pitching. Well, I think that edge would have to go to the Washington Nationals, don't you? You know, you look at the Brewers and the Nats. The Brewers, well, Brandon Woodruff is a injured pitcher back to pitch in a wild card game. I guess the question will be there, how long do you think he can go? And then for the Nationals, you're going to have Max Scherzer starting the wild card game. And, of course, Scherzer, not the year that you would expect out of him or want from him typically, but a good season. And he was 11-7. He called the second half one of the most frustrating of his career. He spent more than 6 weeks battling injuries. In the final 7 starts of the regular season, he had a 4.74 ERA. Now, Scherzer will have gone 7 days between starts. And though he may feel well enough to go past 100 pitches, I just don't see the Nats doing that. Brandon Woodruff, he's had a pair of 2-inning starts after spending 2 months on the injured list with a oblique strain. He's not stretched out to pitch deep into the game. Now, Milwaukee knows that. And so you look for Woodruff to go maybe, 3, 4 at the most, and then it becomes a bullpen game the rest of the way. I think it boils down to how far can Max Scherzer take the Nationals and whether or not one team or the other gets out to the early lead, because neither bullpen is exemplary. You know, this past weekend, when the Brewers had a chance still to win the division, they bring in their closer, Josh Hader, and he blows a save on Saturday, all but ending the Brewers' chances of winning the division. If he locks down the save, they may well win the division. Now, St. Louis wins their last 2 games, so it could have been a moot point. But it became moot when Hader blew it on Saturday. Now, looking at the lineups for each team, it looks like Milwaukee will on Wednesday go this way: Trent Grisham, Yasmani Grandal, Mike Moustakas, Keston Hiura, Ryan Braun, Eric Thames, Lorenzo Cain, Orlando Arcia, and Brandon Woodruff. And probably the Nationals will go Trey Turner, Adam Eaton, Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto, Howie Kendrick, Asdrubal Cabrera, Kurt Suzuki, Victor Robles, and Max Scherzer. So those are the probable lineups for the Nationals and the Brewers as they set battle on Wednesday. Now let's look at Tuesday's game, because tomorrow is the most imminent, Tampa Bay and Oakland. And Oakland manager Bob Melvin is holding off on announcing his wild card game starter. Now, I told you Charlie Morton is starting for Tampa Bay in Oakland. But now, let's take a look at what Oakland has. It's going to be either Mike Fiers or Sean Manaea. Now, the A's have set up each pitcher's final 2 outings to be well rested for Wednesday's wild card game. Fiers last pitched on Friday and Manaea on Thursday. So let's look at these 2 pitchers. Fiers, he's been really strong for the whole season. He has a 3.21 ERA since April 26th. That's 5th lowest among American League starters. He has a home park advantage. He went 9-2 with a 2.90 ERA in 17 starts at the Oakland Coliseum this year. Okay, he has a 38.8 fly ball percentage 8th among AL starters, and in that ballpark, that's a pitcher's dream. But over the last month, he's not been particularly sharp. Okay? He faced the minimum over 8 scoreless innings in his final regular season home start on September 20th. But his previous 3 starts were the worst of the season. He had an 18.78 ERA his previous 3 outings prior to September 20th's 8-inning gem. In fact, he left one of those 3 with an injury scare with a nerve irritation in his right arm. And in his final start Friday night in Seattle, he was solid. He threw 102 pitches, 62 for strikes. He limited the Mariners to 2 runs over 5 innings. So that's the case for Mike Fiers on Wednesday for Oakland. Now, Sean Manaea, and he's been nothing but totally impressive since coming back from the injured list. Shoulder surgery kept him out until August 24th. Manaea's been dominant over his 5 starts. He's allowed only 4 earned runs over 29 2/3 innings. That's a 1.21 ERA, 30 strikeouts, and 7 walks. So the numbers support Manaea. The Rays lineup features mostly left-handed hitters: Austin Meadows, Ji-Man Choi, Brandon Lau. They all carry significantly lower statistics against left-handers. For example, Ji-Man Choi is batting only .210 against lefties as opposed to .274 against righties. How have they fared against the Rays? Well, Fiers pitched well in 2 starts against the Rays. He limited them to 3 runs over 12 innings, and the A's won both games. Manaea has not faced the Rays this season. That makes him a little bit of a mystery to the Rays, right? That could be good, that could be bad, depending on how Oakland views it. But it's been a small sample size for Manaea either way. But he could not have pitched hardly any better than he has since coming back from shoulder surgery. So whether it's Fiers or Manaea, the A's appear to be in good hands. They're looking to get 5 or 6 innings out of either one. And so, tough choice. Could it be they both pitch? I don't know, right? You never know what the manager may do in this game, Bob Melvin. But he does at least have a choice of riches to go with as the A's look to play in this Wednesday wildcard game. Charlie Morton going on Wednesday for Tampa. Not much of a mystery there. He started 33 games this year. He was one of just 3 Rays pitchers who didn't land on the injured list. His stats, well, they speak for themselves. He earned his 2nd All-Star game appearance. He won 16 games. He had a 3.05 ERA over 194 2/3 innings. He led the Rays with a 5.1 win above replacement. He was named team captain. Everything. He recorded the last out of the 2017 World Series with the Astros, so he has postseason experience. That can only help. In fact, the Rays only have 10 players on their active roster with playoff experience. So Morton seems to be, no doubt, obvious choice. The A's, on the other hand, I don't expect them to name anybody until possibly later tonight. So we'll see how that goes. That's an intriguing series to me. So is one-game playoff. The Brewers and the Nationals. Anytime you're talking about a one-game playoff, anything can happen. And so how critical it is to get a lead early, to make sure your bullpen is ready. Tuesday's game between Washington and Milwaukee ought to be a ding-dong kind of a game. And then this Rays-Oakland game, I'm looking for a lot of pitching. The Rays bullpen, the A's bullpen, both are very strong. So if you can get 4 or 5, 6 innings out of a starter, those bullpens taking over, it's the strength of both clubs. So let's take a look at where we go from there. Who's waiting for these wild card teams? The Astros wait for the winner in the American League, while the Dodgers wait for the winner in the National League. And I'm going to tell you, I don't like the spot of either of these teams in a 5-game series, because either wild card team, they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be thinking they're playing with house money, and it's only a 5-game series. So you only probably see great pitching once, possibly. If you can go in there and sweep or win in 4, That's just the reality of it. Longer series mean more exposure to great pitching. But when you're in a short series, they're scary to me. Now, I'm not predicting the Dodgers and the Astros to go out. I am saying it wouldn't shock me. And of the two that I feel are more vulnerable, I feel like the Dodgers are more vulnerable, potentially, than you would be if you were playing someone else. I mean, here you go. If the Nationals win that game, all right, Strasburg probably then pitches game 3. Scherzer pitches game 3. But you've got a Corbin and a Strasburg to go in games 1 and 2. And frankly, they match up with anything the Dodgers have to throw starting pitching-wise. And then you come back with a Scherzer in game 3, and I've always felt game 3s are the most critical games in short series. So, should Washington advance, I think they pose a very strong threat to dethrone Dodgers as the National League World Series representative. Now, the Brewers, don't forget them. I'm telling you, I gave the Brewers no shot at even making the playoffs when Christian Yelich went out. I don't like their pitching. I didn't really like their hitting. But somehow, some way, they have found a way. Don't discount resilience, especially when you're in the playoff hunt. However, I like Washington's chances better against the Dodgers than I do Milwaukee's. The other American League series coming up we haven't even spoken of, the Yankees and the Twins. Now, I tell you what, similar teams. And here's a good stat. The Minnesota Twins, as a team, hit 307 home runs this season. The New York Yankees, as a team, hit 306 home runs. So both teams rely a lot on the home run ball. Now, the Twins got some bad news. Infielder Luis Arias was diagnosed with a grade 1 sprain in his right ankle on Sunday. The Twins are saying he's day-to-day. Now, Arias I'm sure would have been in the starting lineup when the Twins opened the ALDS on Friday against the Yankees, and he does have 4 days off, so we don't know what's going to happen. But that's certainly something the Twins have to be looking at before they finalize their roster Friday morning. I expect them to wait until the last possible moment to make a decision on that roster. Arias, look, he hit 334, 20 doubles in 92 games. He's one of only 6 players in the American League this season with 3 hitting streaks of at least 10 games. So he is a big part of that offense. And him recovering from this injury before Friday is critical, I think, to the Twins and their ALDS chances against the Yankees. Does history matter in baseball playoffs? I don't know, but give you a little history here between the Yanks and the Twins. The Yankees and Twins, Minnesota has lost 13 consecutive playoff games, including 10 straight to the Yankees. The Yankees most recently swept the Twins in the 2017 wild card game, but 10 in a row in the playoffs, the Yankees have defeated the Twins. Is it in the head of any of the Twin players? Now, Eddie Rosario said that's before, now is different. Taylor Rogers, reliever, said it's a playoff series. We don't need to add any more significance to it. But think about it this way. When this curse, whatever you want to call it, began with a loss to the Yankees in the 2003 ALDS, a lot of these kids were in grade school. So this 10-game losing streak to the Yankees started over 16 years ago. Now, the question is, will the Twins break the streak? They're talented, but don't you just feel like the Twins pitching, and here you go, I'll put a chip on their shoulder for them if they're listening, the Twins pitching is just not up to par with the Yankee pitching. That's why I think the Yankees advance and take on the winner of the Houston wild card winner in the ALCS. I think in the other National League series with St. Louis and Atlanta, I look at the players and I think about which team has the best player or the best two players. And I tell you what I think is critical for that series is Freddie Freeman and his health. Freddie Freeman had been injured the last week of the year, came back from being on the bench. He was 2 for his last 10. Now, Freddie Freeman has got to be productive, in my opinion, for the Braves to be able to get past the Cardinals. If he's not productive, I don't see the Braves advancing. But if Acuna and Freddie Freeman are hot in that series, it's over. I just think they can, with the speed, with the power. Now, St. Louis has some incredible pitching. Flaherty, Dakota Hudson. But Flaherty will only probably pitch once, maybe twice if it's a game 5. So if Atlanta could, pull off a win in game 1, St. Louis, however, they've got some bats. They've got some veteran-tested bats, and they've got some rookie bats. That, to me, is the most up-for-grabs series in all the playoffs. St. Louis against Atlanta. And I don't have a pick there. I think it's even. I really don't. Interesting.
Very interesting. So we'll see how it goes. Look at our schedule today. Let's see how it goes. After me at 1 o'clock today, Pitches Get Stitches. At 2 p.m., Kevin Hastings, Aloha Fantasy Baseball. At 6:30, the Roto Imbeciles. And at 11, Fantasy Fisticuffs. Thank you for a great morning. Thank you, chat room, for being with me. Tomorrow, I've been texting Lenny during the, you probably see it in the chat room. It looks like tomorrow, because Lenny's in Arizona, we may flip times. I may be on at 9, Lenny on at 10. I'm going to deep dive tomorrow into the Tuesday wildcard game, the Nationals and the Brewers. We're going to look at lineups. We're going to look at situations, stats against, stats for, all that kind of stuff. Give it a good deep dive. So let's tune in tomorrow at 9. Have a great day. Support these podcasters. And you get a day off from baseball. So you have no reason not to be around at 1 for Pitches Get Stitches, at 2 for Kevin Hastings, 6:30 for Roto Imbeciles, and at 11 for Fantasy Fisticuffs. George, be ready. Thank you guys for being in the chat room. Have a great day from Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.